Yeah.
Welcome to Vision India Forum 2047 Amrit Kal series. Mr. Laxminarayan is there with us. VV Laxminarayan, former IPS officer. He was a DIG in the CBI. Formerly took retirement as a VRS a few 6 years back. The reason we have requested him to join today in this important series of discussions that we're having on monologue as well as on summit platforms on issues which are very varied in nature, but anything to do with development of a nation which is developing and marching towards its 100th year will not be complete without absolute fetters being rained on corruption, systems being cleansed from the intrinsically, and that is where the role of the banking and the financial system becomes very important. This is Satyam Scandal investigation and challenges faced by CBI, by the DIG himself, who handled the case. I know this particular case of Satyam is something which most of the country is well aware of, though it is probably not the largest one today, but it is something which shook the nation when it came to the limelight or to the forefront in 2009. I hand it over to Mr. Laxminarayan to take us over his experience handling this great, kind of a initiative which led to us understanding what went wrong in the banking system and in the future what should be avoided so that things like Satyam, PNB, Yes Bank do not recur in this country. Something which leads us to shame, and it is basically pilferage of public money. Over to you, Mr. Laxminarayan ji.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Amit, and also thank you, Vision India Foundation, for giving me this opportunity. Because basically, as Mr. Amit has asked me to dwell upon the Satyam investigation and all, and also what were the challenges faced by CBI? Because this case's investigation was complete and a special court was set up, and the case ended in conviction, and now the people, they are in appeal in the sessions courts. That is the present position of this case. Because way back, if you see, this company was incorporated in the year 1987, and it became a limited company in the year 1991. At the peak of its time, it had about 53,000 employees, and about 185 of the Fortune 500 companies were the customers, and the operations were spread in many countries. I mean, just to give a number, it is about 66. And it was one of the top IT firms in India at that time, because the others being Wipro and Infosys and other companies, TCS and all, it was one of the top 4 in the company. And it received the Corporate Governance Award also. And in the year 2007, it received the Ernst & Entrepreneur of the Year. And also it was listed, in addition to its listing in Bombay Stock Exchange and all, it was listed in the New York Stock Exchange also. So the company was doing good. And in fact, because I belong to Andhra Pradesh, and also the company has spread so much, it started giving employment to so many. And in fact, when Mr. Clinton visited Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Ramalinga Raju, the chairman of this company, shared the dais with the American President Clinton and also the then Chief Minister, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu. And then Satyam, if you see the line of business, it was in 5 sectors. It was banking and financial services, manufacturing and telecom, health and pharmaceuticals, rail transportation, retail transportation and logistics, some other fields. So these are the 5 lines of business in which Satyam was working. It is like any other IT company. What the IT company does is, they raise the business through the purchase orders. That means somebody like Air India or somebody, they give business to Satyam. That means they give a project and the project is executed by the Satyam computers, and then they raise the purchase orders. Then the orders are taken up and the customers are charged through invoices. So a business is entered into, the orders are taken up, then they do the work and they charge the customers through invoices. Because throughout the presentation, I will be taking up one example so that it becomes very, very easy. For the example, I have taken Air India as one of the clients. So Air India wanted to execute a project with Satyam. So they raised the business. I mean, a business was taken up, then a purchase order was placed to Air India. Say the project is worth about 200 crores. So Air India has expressed its willingness that they will pay 200 crores. It is not that all of a sudden or in a one go they give 200 crores. As Satyam produces work or does work, based on the invoices, Air India starts paying Satyam. This is what is the business model basically. So then, this is the published performance of Satyam. If you see, right from 99, the figures are available. If you see, this is the revenue, that is the income, and also this is the net profit what they earned. If you see down the line, the profit started increasing. So it started up with 42, and suddenly in the year 2000, the profit became 335 crores. Because basically, if you see, 2000 is the year where throughout the world we had that Y2K problem. So many of the IT companies, they could get a lot of profit. So that's how the profit jumped from 42 crores to 335. Then slowly, gradually, the profit started increasing. If you see 2506, 5 and 6, suddenly from 750, it has gone to 1200. Then 2006 and 7, it is 1400. 2007 and 8, it was 1715 crores. Then these are the 2 quarters which are available. So you can understand that this Satyam was doing business. As it started increasing its spread, so more and more business started coming. So more and more profits they started earning. So at the same time, Satyam got listed in the stock exchange, National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange, and also in the New York Stock Exchange. So many people started investing in Satyam because of the good performance and also the profit which they were earning. So it had a very good model and the management was very good. The board of directors were eminent people like Dr. M. Rammohan Rao, who was the director IIM Bangalore, Professor Krishna Paleppu, Dr. Mangalam Srinivasan, Sri Vinod Dham, who was behind this Intel chip. Sri T.R. Prasad was the ex-cabinet secretary. He was also on the board. And Dr. V.S. Raju, who was the director IIT Chennai and then subsequently IIT Delhi. After retirement, he also was the board of directors. And the value of the company was also very good. The growth rate, if you see those days, it was very close to Infosys, TCS and Wipro. So the accounting standards were also very good. They started following both Indian GAAP as well as the US GAAP also. And street expectations. This is very, very important for a company's share to rise. Because Mr. Ramalinga Raju used to announce in advance that next quarter we are going to give you this much of profit or this much of dividend. So he started delivering. So people believed and they started investing more and more in Satyam. And also the auditors were Pricewaterhouse was the auditing. So all these factors increased the confidence of the investors in the company and they started investing. Now, this was what was seen on the balance sheets. But what was happening behind, we need to know. Then only you can understand what exactly happened. If you see those 6 years, starting from say 2001 onwards or 2002 onwards, the average performance of the last 6 years of the IT majors was between 25% to 30%. So that means these companies were growing at the rate of 25 to 30%. But actually Satyam was growing at a rate of 15% only. The actual performance of Satyam was only 15%. So now they have to compete with these other big IT giants who were progressing or who were growing at 25% or 30%, but Satyam was growing only at 15%. So there was a difference of almost 15% in their growth. So then in the rat race, so they wanted to be number one. So how the shortfall needs to be achieved? That was a big question before the Satyam computers. So what they did is they started inflating their sales. So that means they will show more and more revenue in the balance sheets. As I mentioned earlier also, suppose they say take the same Air India. As I mentioned, Air India has given a project of 200 crores to Satyam. But actually what Satyam started showing in their balance sheet is Air India has actually given them a business of 400 crores instead of 200 crores. The actual business was only 200 crores. But in the balance sheets, they started projecting more. That means 400 crores. So that means they wanted to fill up this performance deficit. So they wanted to catch up with the other IT majors because their intention was once we show in the balance sheet that they are on par with the other companies, then more and more business will come. And definitely, whatever the fudging they are doing, that can be compensated later on, or it need not be done in um, the subsequent years. So that is how they started showing more sales, more revenue in their balance sheets. So to inflate this revenue or the income to match the performance, as I said, IT majors like Infosys, TCS, and Wipro. And they kept these inflated revenues in the balance sheets. So more and more people started investing in Satyam because Satyam is growing fast on par with the other companies. Then what Satyam started doing is they started offloading their shares. People were investing and these people were showing these results in the balance sheet, but actual business was only 15% growth. But on paper, it was shown as 25%. So people invested and the main promoters of these companies started offloading or pledging of their shares. So this is what is the overall phenomenon. Now, what is the modus operandi adopted? It is very, very interesting. So as I mentioned earlier, they started inflating the revenue or income by generating false sales invoices. As I mentioned, Air India gave only 200 crores worth of business.
Mr. Narayana, why were they pledging their shares? Why were they
I'll
promoters
tell
pledging?
you, it will come. Subsequently, it will come. Once you understand the modus operandi, then what happens is it becomes easier for you to understand. So, first, let us take the inflation of the revenue. So, I take the same example. Air India 200 crores is the project given. But in the balance sheet, they were showing it as 400 crores. So, they started raising false invoices because they could raise genuine invoices of only 200 crores. But having shown 400 crores in the balance sheet, they need to raise these invoices. Suppose if all these 400 crores invoices, if they send it to Air India, they will say that our project is only 200 crores with you. Why are you sending 400 crores invoices to us? So what they did is they raised these false invoices and they kept with themselves. They kept with themselves and only 200 crores worth of invoices were sent to Air India. Now, so if you see the balance sheet, the revenue is being shown as 400 crores from Air India. So that means you are showing a revenue of 400 crores, but only 200 crores is coming into your bank statement. So I need to put this 200 crores extra into my bank statement. So what they did is they took the bank statement and they started forging the bank statement also. So in addition to these 200 crores genuine, they started putting false entries in their bank statements. So there were invoices, genuine 200, false 200, total 400 crores. Bank statement, genuine 200 crores plus 200 crores extra income. Again, bank statement is forged. That means now. So the investors will ask you, so you got this 400 crores from Air India. What you did with that? So they must have paid salaries and other things. So these 200 crores extra, what they have shown in the bank statements, they said they have deposited as the fixed deposits in the bank. No bank will deposit without you actually investing money. So I need to show 200 crores of fixed deposits in the bank. So what they started doing is they started forging the fixed deposit receipts also. FDRs also they forged. So false invoices, false bank statement, and forged fixed deposits. So this is the modus operandi which they adopted. So this is with Air India or with so many other companies, they started doing the same business. So show false invoices. To that extent, forge your bank statement. To that extent, generate fixed deposits. So these are the things. This is the modus operandi. I mean, this is what I'm telling. So the company was showing more and more revenue, more and more revenue. I always give an example because they thought, let us do it for 2 quarters. Let us do this forgery for 2 quarters. Because once the people see more and more revenue in your balance sheets, they thought people will invest more and more in Satyam. And more business also is going to come. It is like a child who got only 80% marks in his examination. So he got his mark sheet. So he wants to show it to his parents because 80% is very low. So what he did is, he thought next semester I'll prepare well and I'll get more marks. So he forged his marks list. Instead of 80, he showed it as 95. So the parents were very happy. So my child got 95%. So that semester gone. So the next semester, this fellow could get only 87%. So again, he forged to 96% this time. So the parents were happy, but this boy was not getting the marks or not getting the rank. So he thought next semester he can try, but he could not get. So what he started doing is, he started forging his mark sheet semester after semester. In the same way, Satyam also started forging quarter by quarter because they thought initial 2 quarters, let us do this forgery. And if you get more business, this need not be continued. But unfortunately, this did not happen. So they started forging their balance sheets quarter after quarter. And this is how the uh, mismanagement or fudging of the balance sheet perpetrated over several quarters. Now, how they generated this false invoice? This is also very important because Satyam had a system called Optima. So through this Optima system, they started generating invoices. Because once you put this false entry into Optima, it won't accept because it will take only genuine receipts or genuine invoices. For that, what they did is they created another porting system called Excel porting. So that means all genuine invoices were entered into the system through this Optima. All these forged invoices, they were started porting onto their system, invoice management system, through this Excel porting. So again, Air India example, 200 invoices came from here, genuine invoices, 200 false invoices, they were ported into this system by this Excel porting. Now, you may ask me a question. Because these invoices are visible to the people. Because the moment a false invoice comes, definitely the accounting people are going to question. How come this false invoice has come? So what they did is, they started hiding these invoices. All the fake invoices or the false invoices, they started hiding from the account team. So accounts team, they used to see only the genuine invoices. All the false invoices have been hidden. So if you see this, this is how the Excel porting started working. So this is a false invoice. So immediately the system asks, do you want to hide this invoice? If I put S, successfully completed the task, it used to give. So along with genuine invoices, they started porting the false invoices also. So suppose if you see, this used to be the main system. The financial people, they used to see this without this particular invoice. So they could see only the genuine invoices and not the false. So you prepare a false invoice, hide it from the accounting people, and when it comes to the balance sheet preparation, these false invoices also used to join. That means still accounting only genuine invoices. Then these invoices, they got ported and hidden. Now, when it comes to the generation of balance sheets, this 200 plus 200, 400 used to be shown as the revenue from Air India. So this was the modus operandi. And then now The big task for us, for the CBI at that time, was how to identify these fake invoices, how to identify the persons who created these fake invoices. That is very important. So what they did is, they used to generate these false invoices at midnight. 12 o'clock, a team of people used to come to a particular room, and they used to, through their laptops, they used to create these false evidences, false invoices. So what we did during investigation is, we took all the gate passes, because if you enter into a room, you are supposed to show your ID or your biometric. So then it used to give the list of people who entered that room. So we collected the entire list of these people who started entering into this room, along with their locks and also the time at which they entered. So like this, we could segregate. There were only 6 people who did this false invoice business. So then, now we need to show that this invoice is false. So for that, we did almost these confirmations. We confirmed with the finance team. We confirmed with the associates. We backtracked the entire these on-time and Optima systems. Then we started asking the project codes, and we examined the business unit sets. We examined the customers also. Say, for example, Air India, we asked them, how many invoices you gave? They said we raised invoices. They raised invoices to the tune of 200 crores, and we paid them. We paid only 200, not 400. So that is a confirmation. And also we examined the bank officials also, because bank statements were forged. So we examined the bank officials also. They said only 200 crores came from Air India. So the bank statement which they are showing it as 400, it is forged. So like this, we could get about 7 to 8 confirmations to prove that those invoices were this. So in total, 7,561 false invoices were generated. The amount was 5,117 crores. That means 5,117 crores of business or the revenue shown in the balance sheet of Satyam is totally false. There was no business. They had genuine business, there is no doubt. But in addition, they have they used 7,561 false invoices amounting to 5,117 crores. So these 7,561 false invoices were hidden in the system from being used by the business units. So this is how they used a source code in the written SQL to hide the invoices, as I had shown earlier. So let us see number of fake invoices generated and the amount over the years. In 2003-4, 267 invoices, 213 crores. If you see in the year 2007 and 8, 3,104 crores, fake invoices were generated, and the amount shown is 1,734 crores. That means 1,734 crores, which they have shown in the balance sheet of Satyam, it was all fake. There was no business to this amount. So in order to show that, they created 3,104 invoices. So this is what is the actual performance and the real performance. So in the year 2004, the actual revenue or the sales shown was 2,313. But actually, the actual sales were this. The published sales was 2,541, but actual sales was only 300. So if you come like this, come to the year 2007, wherein published sales was 6,228 crores, but actual sales was only 5,500. So this is how they manipulated by manipulating the invoices. Now, how they forged the bank statements. So it is very simple. Every month, banks used to send their original bank statements to Satyam computers. So what they did is, they prepared forged bank statements by incorporating the additional entries matching with the false invoices. So it is not all of a sudden they can put that. Day to day, they started matching false invoice, false amount, false invoice, false amount. Like that, they manipulated the entire bank statement. So banks have confirmed this forgery. Now, coming to the fixed deposits. So whatever amount, that 5,117 crores of additional income or the revenue, what they have shown in the balance sheets, they have shown that this amount was deposited as a fixed deposit receipt, FDR. So what they did is they adopted a very crude method. They purchased a very good printer. They purchased a very good printer worth about 25 lakhs. So then they forged the FDR of the bank. And whatever amount they wanted to incorporate in it, they used to type that amount. And then this beautiful printer used to give this forged FDR. So then again, you may ask a question to me. Generally, all these FDRs are supposed to be verified by the chartered accountants or the auditors. Generally, the paper what they used here is not the original paper. You can see the difference between the genuine FDR of a bank and the FDR, forged FDR prepared by them. You can have a feel of it. So a very good auditor can always touch a FDR and can say that this is a forged. So in order to avoid that, what they did is they laminated all these forged FDRs. That means you can't have the feel of the paper. So they laminated all these FDRs. So this is how the modus operandi. So for example, you see, this is the letter written by the managing director to the general manager HDFC Bank. That means they said, we are depositing so much of money, kindly convert them or put them into FDRs. This letter is only prepared in the company, but it was not sent to the bank because there is no money. So they prepared these letters to the bank, and to this amount, worth this amount, they prepared the forged FDR. So this is to BNP Paribas Bank. And then bank confirmation letters. Generally, bank confirms whenever FDR is deposited in a bank. Suppose I pay 20,000 to the bank, asking them to give me a fixed deposit. Then in addition to giving the FDR, they also give a confirmation letter. So this is the confirmation letter. You think that this is the confirmation letter given by the bank, but this is also a forged document. So even the bank confirmation letters were also forged. So invoices forged. Then bank statement forged. FDR forged. Bank confirmation letter forged. So this is confirmation letter from your Citibank. So this is how the balance sheet fudging has happened. So show non-existent fixed deposits, showing non-existent cash balances in current accounts, showing non-existent interest on fixed deposit also, because banks give only interest on the FDRs. But actually, they were showing more amount deposited in the bank. For that, bank will not give you the interest. So they started fudging the interest amount also. So your actual sales, you forged. Interest also, you forged. This is how the thing happens. So I always take you to the 2007 and 8. What they have shown in the balance sheet as fixed deposits was 3,317 crores. But what was the actual FDRs available at the bank is only 17 crores. So that means they have prepared forged FDRs worth 3,308 crores. So this is how the forging was done. Then interest also. So again, go to the same 2007-8. Balance sheets, they have shown 271 crores as the interest earned. But actually, the interest paid by the bank was only 1 crore. Because they had only that much. They had only 9 crores in the bank. So for that, they paid only 1 crore as the interest. Whereas in the balance sheet, they showed it as 271 crores. So this is how the whole thing was done. So you may ask me now, as you asked Mr. Amit, now how the people got benefited in the whole process. So they started offloading their shares because people were investing and they were doing this forgery. And what they did is, initially promoters had around 20% of shares during 1992, promoter shares. Then over the years, from 20%, the promoter shareholding became only 1.87% by 2008. That means gullible people, they were investing, and the promoters, knowing that they were doing fraud, they started offloading their shares almost this much. So then sale of shares also they did. So the promoters, by offloading their shares, they got about 767 crores. This is what is the profit earned by them by sale of shares. Then they pledged the shares also. They pledged these shares, and they got 1,866 crores as collateral. They used these shares and they got loans to the worth of 1,866 crores. By direct sale, they got 767 crores, and in the form of loan, they got 1,866 crores. Then what they did is, by using this money, they floated front companies, about 327, and they started purchasing land and properties in around Hyderabad, Bangalore and all. So by using that 767 crores and by using this 1,800 odd crores in the form of loans, they purchased 1,750 properties worth about 1,400 crores. And these companies, the total acreage which they purchased was about 5,750 acres land in Andhra Pradesh itself. So this is what it is. So you fudge the bank statements and you offload your shares, get money and purchase these properties. And what is the personal gain? Because they got dividend to the tune of 115 crores, around 2,600 crores by pledging and offloading the shares. Huge chunks of land in AP, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu acquired. They enjoyed as chairman and managing director of the company since inception, even though fraud was going on. And they increased the customer base, thereby projected themselves as one of the IT majors in the world. This is how the whole thing has happened. Then who suffered losses? Because these people gained, definitely investors had to lose because they invested thinking that this company is doing genuine business. Institutional investors like banks, NBFCs, insurance companies, and they purchased 6.45 crore shares and lost to the tune of 2,969 crores to the institutional investors. Mutual fund investors, they lost 1,930 because the share price dropped from, I think, 480 rupees to 5 rupees that day. In one day, they incurred so much of loss. Then individual shareholders, they lost about 10,000 crores. Then FIIs, they suffered a loss of 13,000 crores. So total loss is 28,000 crores mark to market loss. It is not the exact loss, it is mark to market. From 480, your share price has dropped to 5 rupees. So you caused a loss of 28,000 crores to the bank. Then how the scam broke? Because if you see, everything is happening, everything is nice. Fake invoices were being produced, bank statements were being forged, FDRs were being prepared, balance sheets were forged. Everything is going on. But now what happened is, in order to show this much of business, they started recruiting people. Because any IT company, the assets are office and the manpower. Because they sit on the computers and they do the job. So people are more important. Employees are more. Because you know that you are forging your balance sheets. But the other companies, they do not know. They are thinking that you are doing a genuine business. For that, I need to show more manpower. This year, if I am doing a business of say 10,000 crores, next year I am showing a revenue of 20,000 crores. Where from I am getting this 10,000? I need to employ more people. So they started employing more and more people and they started paying them salaries also. This created lot of cash flow problem to the Satyam. Because whatever is coming, you are paying as the salaries to your people and you are paying rents to your offices here and also abroad. So there was a severe cash flow problem. Then investors starting put a lot of pressure on them because Satyam Ramalingarazu announced that he was going to acquire two companies. One is called Mitas Infra and the other was Mitas Construction, I think. These two companies. Then these investors starting, especially the foreign institutional investors, started pressurizing. Yours is a software company, yours is an IT company. You want to acquire these two infra companies. One is a real estate company and the other one is a infra company. There is a mismatch. There is no synergy in this acquisition. So they said, if you acquire, we are going to go out of the company. So then pressure started mounting. Pressure started mounting because you are having a cash flow problem. This acquisition, they are not agreeing because the idea was, suppose if these two companies were acquired by Satyam, Satyam had a big hole of about 5,000 crores manipulated balance sheet. And these two companies had about more than 5,000 crore worth lands and buildings with them. Had the merger taken place, this acquisition would have been successful and this hole in the balance sheet would have got filled. But that did not happen. So this put lot of pressure on Satyam because they wanted to acquire these Mitas Infra and Mitas properties. They wanted to acquire 51% in Mitas Infra and 100% in Mitas property at about 8,000 crores. Had the merger taken place or had the acquisition taken place, these 8,000 crores worth of properties would have got transferred to Satyam. That would have buried the 5,000 hole which they have created by creating false invoices. So they thought, but that did not happen. So as I mentioned, FIIs started opposing. Then Raju had to come out with his confession. On that day, share price dipped from 435 to 139 rupees immediately after the deal was announced. After the deal was announced, not the this thing, they announced the deal. That itself gave a hint in the market that there is something hunky-dory that is happening. So the share price dropped from 435 to 139. Once share price dipped, margin triggers erupted as promoter shares were pledged with various NBFCs. Then people came to know that the promoters also, they have offloaded their shares and it has come to 1.87. So there was no option left to Mr. Raju. That's why on 7th January 2009, he mentioned this. The balance sheet carries, as of September 30, 2008, non-existent cash and bank balances of 5,040 crores. He confessed. Non-existent accrued interest of 376 crores. An overstated debtor position at 490 crores. And an understated liability of 1,230 crores on account of funds arranged by me because he pumped his money into the system. Because there was no money coming. Because he pumped his own money. Because people were seeing so much of money in the current account. So many thousands of crores in the current account. But he was unable to pay the salaries. So in order to hide that, what he started doing is he started pumping his own money into the company, 1,200. Because if Satyam stops paying salaries to the people who are working in the company, then the whole thing would have broken. It would have come out. In the current accounts, they were showing this much money, but they are not paying the salaries to the employees. So to avoid that situation, he put his own money of 1,230 crores. So this is how it happened. Then we roped in the auditors also in this, because as I mentioned, Price Waterhouse was their auditors. Then why did the auditors sit quiet? Auditors are supposed to audit it. Then we compared what is the audit fee given by the IT companies. If you see, Wipro turnover was this much, and the audit fee paid for 2007-8 was only 1 crore. Infosys had a turnover of 15,000 crores, and the audit fee paid was only 83 lakhs. Whereas if you see Satyam Computers, the turnover was shown as 8,100, but the audit fee was 3.73 crores. That means you buy the auditors. You buy the auditors. They bought the auditors. That's why CBI arrested 2 of its auditors also as the accused. They were also players in the whole game. Subsequently, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAA, suspended them from doing this chartered accountancy. Now, finally, how we went about it, how CBI went about it. So, we formed a multidisciplinary investigation team, because it becomes very difficult for police to analyze the balance sheets and understand the whole banking system, and also understand the whole overall these systems. So with 16 CBI officers, we roped in auditors, cost accountants, bankers, cyber forensic experts, and the team was headed by DIG. I was DIG at that time, and SP level officer was the chief investigating officer. We had a close coordination with the ED, SFIO, SEBI, and IT and RBI. This is how we did. Actually, this case was investigated. Initially, investigation was conducted by the AP CID, Andhra Pradesh CID. Then subsequently, the case was shifted to CBI. And the CBI as an agency, we could complete the investigation in 43 days. And we submitted the charge sheet. So the CBI requested the government also and the High Court also to set up a special court for this. A special court was set up, and the trial was also conducted. And finally, the conviction judgment was given, I think, in the year 2014-15. That is what it is. So there were 4 accused. Actually, CBI charge sheeted these 10 accused. One is Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ramalingaraju, his brother Ramaraju, the MD. Then B. Srinivas was the Chief Financial Officer, CFO. Then Gopalakrishnan was the statutory auditor, and T. Srinivas was the statutory auditor from the Price Waterhouse. Then there was one advisory and Vice President Finance and Senior Manager Finance, and one Assistant Manager Finance. So these were the 3 people, last 3 people. They were the main people who were doing this fake invoices generation business. So excellent work was done initially by Andhra Police. Then charge sheet was filed within 46 days after taking over. Total 433 witnesses were examined. 1,532 documents were relied upon. 63 material objects were cited, and it was a 300-page charge sheet. And all the additional documents, it was about 65,000 pages. Generally, what happens is in police, once you take the police custody, once somebody is remanded to judicial custody, they are generally not given to police custody after the initial 15 days. But a case law has emerged in this case that police remand of the accused can be given even after 15 days of judicial custody also. This is a case law that has happened because of this case. And it was an excellent team effort and coordination with all the agencies and experts. So this is what it is. This is how we the CBI conducted the investigation. So identification of the false invoices, identification of the forgery of the bank statements, identification of the FDR receipts, and then how the modus operandi to unearth that, and also how this invoices hiding was done. It was also, it's a very, very challenging investigation. It's because CBI was dealing with a IT company who are experts in IT. So the CBI with the police and investigation background and with the help of these people, we could, as I mentioned, in 40 days, we could unearth the whole modus operandi, and the CBI could submit the uh, charge sheet also, and finally the conviction happened. So now I'll stop sharing this. Yeah, yes, Amit, this is what it is.
I mean, how does the Meta's deal
Yeah.
fill up the void of 5,000 crores of inflated statements? Could
Yeah.
you just explain?
Yes, it's definitely, because Satyam wanted to acquire 51% of Maita's infra and 100% of Maisa's properties. Because as I mentioned earlier, by offloading their shares and also by taking loans, they have purchased a huge chunk of lands. So that became the property of Mitas. So Mitas had a properties, lands worth 8,000 crores and buildings worth 8,000 crores, all put together. So had the acquisition taken place, the assets of Mitas would have become the assets of Satyam. So these 8,000 crore worth of these things would have come to Satyam. Then pledging these lands, they could have got more money. They could have got more money to run Satyam. Because this acquisition deal could not take place, this 8,000 crores could not come to Satyam. So finally he had to come, because in his confession letter he said, I was riding a tiger without now knowing how to get down from it. If I get down or if I announce in between, the tiger is going to eat me. So that is how he waited till January 2009, and on 7th
No,
January
no.
he can.
He had purchased land with those loans. He had
Yeah,
taken loans after pledging his shares. He had
yes.
taken loans. Now, these loans of around 2,000 crores, which he had taken, and he was purchasing land in across Andhra Pradesh that
Yeah,
time.
Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu.
Andhra Pradesh that time. Now, the thing is, I mean, how does that deal, wherein because he is going to acquire Mitas as 51%, so he
Yes.
had to pay some amount of money to get that deal done.
Because it's
What
their own company, their own sister companies. No, one company was headed by his first son, the second company was headed by his second son. So both his children were the MDs of those companies.
Mitas?
Yeah. So it
Okay.
was in-house. So the whole acquisition was opposed by the FIIs, basically.
And if they so when they were trying to acquire it, the idea was to fill up the the deficiency of the to 5,000 crores and bring
Yes.
the property of Mitas into this thing.
Yes.
Okay. So and this acquisition would not have cost any cash outflow to them.
Because initially their goal was to somehow come out of this crisis. Come out of this crisis. Because they had no money to pay the salaries of the employees also. Bank accounts were showing so much of money, but they had no cash with them. So you have to overcome. That's why I mentioned, had the acquisition got through, they would have got 8,000 crore worth of property, which they could have pledged with the banks. And they could have raised money for Satyam again. They could have continued for some more time. Anyway, finally, one day they had to finally confess, there was no doubt, that 2009 would have got prolonged, or this acquisition might have increased the share price also. But actually, the contra happened. From 435, it had fallen to 139 because of non-synergy of this acquisition.
Can you I mean just if you can recollect also the
Yeah,
board of directors, they were former cabinet secretaries, if
yeah.
I remember, representatives from various sections of society.
Yes.
I mean, former cabinet secretary was there. I mean, so somebody from the RBI also was there as a nominee director.
No, there was IITM, IIM Bangalore director and IIT Delhi director. They were the people who were there.
Okay, those were
Because
type, I mean, understand, but was there somebody from the RBI also or from the government?
RBI no, RBI no, because
From
it's
the
a
government.
private company, government. Subsequently, what they did is they had their own board of directors. Mr. Deepak Parekh was there and Mr. Narsimhan was there. So these were the people who were appointed as the independent director after this scam broke out. Because the one beauty that has happened is, in general, if such a scam happens, the company would have got closed. But government stepped in and they appointed independent directors, board of directors, and the company survived. The company survived, and subsequently Tech Mahindra has acquired this company. So that is how it happened. Otherwise, these 43,000 employees, they would have been on the roads. They would have been on the roads. And also, we were very, very choosy in naming anybody as an accused. So only 10 people we named as accused. Because many other people, they were not aware of what was going on inside. Only these 10 people knew what was. So only these 10 were made accused in this particular case.
Were they all the employees of Satyam or were they also outsiders in that 10
No,
people?
they were all employees. They were all employees, right from MD, CMD, chairman to one senior finance man. So only 10 people were made as accused.
The role of, you also had the auditors involved and implicated
Yes,
in this issue.
yes.
Uh, were there only two specific individuals responsible for this malified, if you may say, kind of overlooking with a malified intent?
Actually, what happened during investigation, we found these two people, because their auditing team, they could get some these fake invoices. They raised questions. I think something is wrong. Some fake invoices are being seen on the system. That's what they complained. But these two people asked them to keep quiet. And these people asked them to remove those fake invoices from the system also. So this clearly shows their involvement in the whole this thing. That's why what we did is we convinced the court. That's why they got so much of audit fee. Even though the company's turnover was only 8,000 crores, they got almost 3 times the audit fee compared to TCS or compared to Wipro.
Even the auditor were banned by SEBI for 2 years, by
ICA.
ICAI and SEBI by
Yes,
2 years.
yes, they were banned, and I think
Price
lifelong.
Waterhouse
I think they
India.
were banned lifelong. They were banned lifelong, I believe.
Is it?
Yes,
PWC
because
for
yeah,
2 years, I guess they were banned.
maybe initially I don't know. I mean, I've lost track of it, but what I recollect is that they can't practice. That's what I think. One of them got this thing. One Talluri Srinivas, who is there, who is an CFO, I think he got a relief because all these board of directors, as you were mentioning, they were believing Mr. Raju and they were believing Price Waterhouse. So whatever was shown to them during the board of directors meeting, they believed. That is what it is. Because they were also not made accused. Yes.
So, I mean, are you telling me that all this investment that they got from the FIIs and from the investors pumping in money
Mm.
and the share prices inflating, by the day, this was all based on the conviction that the company's audit reports were
Yes.
signed by PwC? It was the only
Yes.
reason.
Ultimately, face value matters, na? Who is auditing Price Waterhouse? So they have their credibility in the market. And also the board of management was top people. And also Mr. Raju was delivering. Every quarter he was giving the dividend. He was paying the dividend. And he was paying. So there was no question of finding any fault with the overall system and everybody was happy. But only these people knew what was happening behind. As I mentioned, they thought they will do it for 2 quarters. By the time the whole company situation would improve, but that did not happen. So their average performance remained at 15% only. So to match the 25, they started doing all these things. They had to perpetually do it.
They had 40,000 employees, but they were showing 53,000 employees.
No. 53,000 was one time. Finally, when the scam broke out, it was about 43,000. Initially, there was a discussion in the market that they have shown inflated employees. That we checked, it was not so. We checked each and every person's individual attendance and individual presence, their salary slips and everything. So it was matching. So the initial assumptions that by showing inflated employees, they siphoned off the money. They did not siphon off through that mechanism. They have siphoned off through by offloading their shares. Offloading their shares. So there also they adopted a very unique method. So they did not offload the shares individually. What they did is they formed into a small group. So these were all members in that group. So that group started offloading the shares. So if I see everyday transactions going on, as an individual, I won't find the name of Mr. Ramalingarazu with offloading his shares. It is one SR and SR. That particular unit is a conglomeration or is a all these people, all these initial investors or these board of directors or these initial promoters, they formed into an SR company. So that company started offloading. So by seeing the offloading of shares, I thought some SR is offloading, not Mr. Raju or his brother. That is how they camouflage this also. They camouflage this also.
There are so many hidden,
Yeah.
there are so many more facts which are coming out as we talk.
Yes.
How did the, IT sector, I mean, did that have impact on the IT sector going, after this particular thing broke out in 2009? Did it really impact the IT sector?
No, IT sector was not impacted, but general reputation of the country, especially because it was listed in the New York Stock Exchange also. Because literally, I think for 2 hours, this stock exchange was stopped. That did not happen in the real, in the history of BSE, I think. Bombay Stock Exchange, the Bombay Stock Exchange transactions were stopped for almost 2 hours because it was a sudden revelation on 7th January when Ramalinga Raju addressed the media saying that this is what is my position. The share price has gone to from 139, it has come to I think 5 rupees or even 1 rupee also. So it shook the confidence levels of the investors. Many people started offloading. There is nothing to offload because share price had become 2 rupees or so. But it impacted. The share market has gone down that day. Again, it picked up. But it was a big setback. And also it was a setback on the confidence levels of the people. That means people at his level, can they do such type of thing? That was a big shock to all people.
Corporate governance award to such company, did you not? This is something which was tom-tommed as a part of the profile. Golden Peacock, what do they call that? This is some private company giving some
Yeah,
award
Golden
called Golden
Peacock, they
Peacock.
got the award, and Ernst and Young also, they have given the Entrepreneur of the Year. That was the time the maximum fraud was taking place in the company. That's 2007 and 8, because time and again I was
You
mentioning.
should have also brought in the award giving companies to ask them as to on what grounds were they, because they
Because
were.
everybody goes by published results. Na? They won't do any this thing. Published results, market trend, and you declare and you deliver. So all these things, they go by this.
Especially when your competitor is your auditor, is taken away your business.
Yeah.
Obviously it makes more sense for you to give some awards, I guess.
Yeah, because other IT companies also could not suspect this because, like them, these people also started employing people. Had Satyam continued with the same number of employees, say 20,000, if they had got so much of results, then there would have been an iota of doubt. How with 20,000 people they are producing so much of good results? So to hide that, they started taking people on employment. They recruited so many people. That's why there was a saying that time, if you are in Satyam, morning you go and swipe, evening you swipe, and you get your salary by end of the month. Because there was no business. No? The business was being shown only on the paper. Half of the business was being shown on paper. So there was no work to many people. But in order to get not detected by the other competitive companies or your competitors, they started recruiting people. They started paying them. without any, benefit from them. So that's why there used to be a lot of bench strength. They call it as bench strength. Yeah.
Are you, if you want, you may answer, as I've been, the objective is not to sensationalize our
No, no,
discussion,
no. It is
but only to
already
get.
the case is because why I am telling you all these things is because the case has ended in conviction and the investigation is complete. Now they have gone in appeal to the court. Yeah.
Role of politicians.
The role of politicians was not there because it was a company. Because generally people used to say that earlier in the earlier dispensation where IT was being given major importance by the then government, so the company flourished. Then subsequently, after the change in the government, where more of importance was being given to infra, where this MITAS came into existence, so the company started losing its focus from IT. They started focusing on the infra and the real estate companies, MITAS Infras, MITAS Properties. So, but actually there was no involvement because government itself constituted or handed over this case for investigation to the CID. Subsequently, the government requested for a CBI investigation. So that's how the case got transferred to CBI.
The property market crashed in Andhra Pradesh during that period when Mr. Raju had to finally confess. What
Yeah.
impact did the crashing? What was the relation between the property market crashing and the confession?
Property market, there was no crashes. His crash was on the share market. But actually, the property purchases and all, they were very, very careful. Afterwards, because subsequently all these properties got attached by the ED because of this. These are all proceeds of crime. So ED confiscated these properties and they attached it. So that's why there was no sale of these properties as such. If you say there was no sale of this property, but in general, the confidence levels have crashed. There is no doubt about it. So the share market crashed, of course, but the property market, there was a lull for some time. There was a lull
You
for
also
some time.
now towards the last 1 minute of our talk, you had probably a lot of interactions with Mr. Raju and his associates. I
Yeah.
mean, did that man have what did he have to say to this entire?
Yeah, I asked him. In fact, in the interrogation, I asked him, sir, we hold you in a very high respect. We used to, because you used to be one of the very key persons in the state of Andhra Pradesh is concerned. Because you used to recruit so many people from the engineering colleges. A lot of people got jobs and they could set up their families and all. I mean, he was almost like a demigod in Andhra Pradesh, if you see. I also used to have a lot of respect for him. And subsequently, I asked him, why did you do this? The same question. He said, I wanted to be in the market. I wanted to be number one in the IT sector. But I said, sir, this is not the way. I mean, you can't do it. But as I mentioned, they thought they can do it. They could do it. They thought they will do it for 2 quarters. And with that, the company will revive and more revenue and more balance sheet projections. Then more and more business will come. More and more investments will come. The share price will go up. But that could not happen because the pace at which they were started forging these documents, the same pace the business did not develop. So that's why there was always a gap of 25% and 15% with the competitors. So they had to repeat this. They had to perpetually do this fudging till there was no cash in them to pay the salaries to the employees also, and the acquisition deal failed. So he had to confess.
Where did you detect any kind of hand or role of the banks also in terms of supporting Mr. Raju's intentions?
No, no. Banks were giving their genuine bank statements. Banks were giving FDRs. The money actually put in the banks, they were giving genuine FDRs. But these bank statements were being forged by this man after getting it into the company. And the FDRs, of course, I said they used to print and they used to laminate it. That is how they did it. Then what happened is, after this Satyam, there were so many changes in the Companies Act also. Actually, we recommended so many changes, amendments to the Companies Act. Now there is internal external audit. There is internal external audit. Otherwise, internal audit used to take place by the internal auditors itself. Then, in the balance sheet, earlier what used to happen is, they used to show all the amount, fixed deposit amount en bloc. Suppose this year, the company has decided to invest 100 crores in the fixed deposits. Earlier, what used to happen is, this 100 crores used to be shown as single figure. After this, the rules are changed now. Now, individual bank, they have to give how much they are depositing. With HDFC, I am depositing 20 crores. With, say, Axis Bank, 25 crores. With SBI, 50 crores. Then the banks have an opportunity now to check whether that amount has come or not. Otherwise, this man showed about 5,700 crores, 3,300 as the fixed deposit, but actual deposits were only 9 crores. Every bank was thinking that he was depositing in the other bank because there was no split. There was no split. So now that has been introduced. And there are good many changes that have happened in the Companies Act after this, because we presented a paper to the Cabinet Secretariat. And these are our observations. Based on that, they amended the Companies Act also.
And finally, the change of dispensation in 2014,
Yeah.
did it not have any impact on the final conviction taking place?
Nothing,
Because the case was
because
pending for 5-6 years.
yeah, case was pending. Despite having a special court also, because there were so many witnesses and so many documents, and also they also came up with their battery of advocates to counter their arguments and all. So it was a long drawn process in the court, and finally the case ended up in conviction. Of course, now it is in appeal in the Sessions Court. So this is what it is. I mean, the role of taking over by Tech Mahindra is totally the. I mean, the government has the Ministry of Finance has stepped in and they did it. It's a good thing they did it.
That happened in
Otherwise,
the Congress time only. That happened in 2012-13, I guess.
yeah, that time only, because they
And
want.
what I'm trying to basically,
Yeah,
insinuate, if you may say so,
yeah.
had there not been a rift, do you see between Mr. Naidu and the central government? Do you see the outcome not being very different from what it is right now?
No, nothing. Because the company had a good reputation, there is no doubt. And main thing what the government considered is the 43,000 employees. I mean, it is very easy to close down a company. Nowadays, what happens, some chit company, if there is a fraud, the whole company is closed, even the investors, they lose, the employees are on the streets. But that did not happen. That did not happen, and it's a very good case study for how a company should not do. And in case something happens, what red flags have to be introduced in the whole system? What red flags?
I think it was a brilliant step. I think it was one of the for which the government in power at that time in the center should also be complimented, because
Yeah,
they allowed such kind of takeover to to proceed, because that ensured that the entire system, that corporate ecosystem of Satyam and the
yes,
employees and everything got insulated from the
yes,
political changes
that is
that
true.
finally happened in the next 1 or 2 years. Because
Yeah,
if that had not been done, probably the 50,000 families would have been in a
yeah.
mess.
And also the reputation and also all these things would have suffered. So I always say it's a good initiative by the government. It's a good initiative by the government so that the company could survive. And Tech Mahindra is doing good.
And now, where do you see I mean, currently he's put up an appeal, I guess.
Yeah, appeal is pending in the Sessions Court. It is pending since then, almost 10 years now.
Okay. I think we should congratulate the CBI and you and people like you. I think you should have been there for continued over a few more years, so that, cases nowadays, Satyam has become quite a small case in the kind of cases we see every day, every time here and there. I mean, PNB, for example, immediately, ensued after Satyam. It was probably, it is till date, probably one of the biggest scams that has got unearthed. And probably
Yeah.
Satyam gave us an idea that people have to be more careful. It basically laid the platform for the entire financial system and the
Yes.
political system to pull up their socks and be prepared. And that is the reason why today we have so many big scams which have been unearthed. And we should also finally congratulate the CBI and your team who did a fantastic job. Thank you so much, Laxminarayan ji. It
Yeah.
was pleasure talking to you, and it was a wonderful experience to learn from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Jai Hind.